So yes, for the run sheet today, so we do have I'm going to have to adjourn the meeting partway through at around 5 o'clock to accommodate a briefing. And then, so at that point, we'll have to ask members of the public to leave. We've got another public forum coming in at 6 o'clock after that. So there'll be a bit of a break in live streaming as well at that stage. And then we'll just reconvene the meeting. But I'll start with, we'll go to introductions. So Grace, do you want to kick us off for introductions and we'll go clockwise?
Kia ora koutou, ko Arohanui Grace Tukuinga. I'm Arohanui Grace. I'm the governance manager here in, I'm the governance manager here in Spreydon-Cashmere-Heathcote. Sorry.
Kia ora, I'm Tim Scandron. I'm the councillor for Cashmere.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Lee Sampson. I'm a community board member based in Cashmere.
Kia ora koutou, Tim Lindley, community board member for Heathcote.
Kia ora, Kira Leslie, community board member for Cashmere.
Kia ora, Melanie Coker, I'm the councillor for Spreydon.
Kia ora, Roy Kennelly from Community Board Spreydon.
Kia ora, Jane Walters, Community Board Advisor.
Kia ora, as I said before, my name is Callum Ward. I am a board member from Spreydon. And Will and Sarah, do you want to introduce yourselves as well?
Kia ora koutou, ko Sarah Templeton Takuwingwa. Apologies for not being there in person. We have a house full of COVID at the moment. So I'm zooming in to protect everyone.
Yes, hello, I'm Will Hall, community board member for Heathcote. I'm probably going to leave my video off though, because I don't have much reception here, just sitting under the Remarkables at the moment and just playing havoc with it. But apologies for not being in the room, but I am here. Thank you.
You're not that sorry, are you, Will? Yeah.
Well, the moustache lies, but no,
yeah. Cool. So I move we accept apologies. All those in favour? Against, abstentions carried. Declarations of interest. Anybody? Yep. Tim?
I'm as well as this role. I'm also treasurer of the Christchurch Coastal Pathway Group. So any discussions around that, I will.
You'll absent yourself from the table. Cool. Lee?
I'll just flag my item 8. I actually live across from the tennis club, so I've got a higher interest than their average ratepayer, so I'll just abstain on that one.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Lee. And Kia?
Other capacity, so I'll step back from that one as well.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that. I don't think we've had any ever had that many declarations of interest ever. That's great. Cool. So no move or second required for that one. Confirmation of previous minutes. Anybody have any changes? I just want to move it. Cool. Tim second. All those in favour? Against, abstentions carried. Excellent. So now we're moving on to public forum. This is the main part of the show. This is the fun bit. So we get members of the public can come to speak to us for 5 minutes about any topic that they like. I just ask that when you come up to speak, you make sure that the microphone in front of you is lit up green. You press a button, the little person button on it to turn it on. It just helps everybody hear, especially the people online. And I'll remind people as well if they forget. So first up, we've got Jenny and Caitlin from HHCA to talk about transport issues in the Hoonhay area.
Presentation, just a report.
Kia ora and good afternoon. We'd like to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to come and speak to you. And for the last time when we spoke to them, when you agreed to investigate our request for a pedestrian island on Hoonhay Road between Maters and Sparks Road. I'd also like to introduce one of our fellow committee members, Caitlin, who I will let you take over because Caitlin and Holly Holly Henderson, two of our community board committee members have been the people who have worked behind this report and gathered all the data and collated it. So Caitlin is hands-on with it, so I'll hand over to her.
Kia ora koutou, ko Caitlin Tokuingoa. Thanks very much for having us. We won't take too much of your time, not planning to read 27 pages of content. But basically, just to give you a little bit of background, we consistently for the past 8 months at our events at Hoonhay Community, through Hoonhay Community Association and at Hoonhay Community Centre, we were getting quite a bit of feedback around just road safety issues. Did a Facebook post, got a lot of feedback on that, which I'm sure is no surprise. And then we decided to start collecting it in a more, I guess, easier way to digest. So after Jenny and one of our committee members, Alistair, came to speak to you earlier in the year around that Hoonhay Road pedestrian island request, we started a petition. We ran it for about 6 weeks, just online, and then collected a few handwritten signatures, if you will, at our events we held. And when we closed it in April, just after we had a small residents meeting on it, we had 129 people who'd filled it out, 100% support better road safety in Hoonhay, and 99.2% support a pedestrian island on Hoonhay Road between Mathers and Sparks. And you'll just note perhaps my wording of the question was a little bit confusing between crossing and island. So I don't know if that brings it back up to 100%. Who knows? I'm pretty happy with 99. But anyway, there's a report we've emailed you. I don't expect you to have read it. You're all very busy, but don't be daunted by its size. While it may appear to be 27 pages, 4 of it's the report. The rest of it's the petition entries. So hopefully those 4 pages are all you need to know. What I would particularly draw your attention to are pages 2 and 3, which is the summary of the suggestions we've received. I don't pretend to have captured absolutely everything from every entry we got, but that's a pretty good summary of them there. You'll also notice page 1 has some of the major themes, and then on pages 3 and 4, we've just got some personal stories as well to show why people find this issue really important, and you'll see that as well in the appendix. So there's specific and broad recommendations. We know things don't happen overnight. We're not trying to be unrealistic, but we are asking that the community board tables this report, that you review the recommendations and potentially ask staff to investigate the recommendations so changes can be made in the area. We're also well aware that some recommendations may have unintended consequences that we're not aware of. We're not traffic engineers, so we'll leave that to the experts, but we just ask that it's taken seriously and given priority, and we'd love to stay involved with the board as you hopefully work through these issues. So I guess I'll just leave it there, and if you've got any questions, we'll try to answer them.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much. I have read it. It's really, really detailed and really high quality of information and the breadth of voices that you've captured as well. Have you had any contact or worked with Tony Dakers or another traffic engineer from council around these kinds of issues?
We have heard his name, but we haven't had
No.
any contact. She,
Yeah,
No, we haven't.
She
All right.
wasn't available to come to one of our meetings.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Tim?
Yeah, look, thank you, and it's outstanding. It really is. You've done a great job. I guess one of the things that so in this community we face is those people driving through it. So when we had the consultation with the roundabout, those that drive through our community weren't really in favour of speed humps because they want to go somewhere and they don't really, for want of a better term, they don't really care about the locals. And with the Lincoln Road rise on, and there is a question here, with the Lincoln Road rise on where it meets Whiteley Ave, etc., the local community, I understand, love it because it's slowed the cars down, and it's also the side consequences. It's nailed the boy races as well to a degree. So I guess with Hoonhay Road, it's a big wide road, and people tend to drive faster. Did you ask, I didn't see it there, but you did talk about excessive speeds on Hoonhay Road and other roads. Do you think there'd be an openness for that type of those road cushions to be placed every now and then just to bring that speed down?
That could well be a solution, because
part of the solution.
Part of the solution. Look, yeah, don't know the answer, but it sounds like a good suggestion. You will notice that quite a few people mentioned lowering speeds, but also quite a few people will be unhappy with that. using road design like that might be the solution there. And totally agree around having to consult people outside of the area too. I live not far off Sparks Road, and so people coming from Hallswell in particular, you notice increase in traffic with new houses there. There's a lot of people nearby who will need to be consulted going through this, but the council's well equipped to handle all that. But those road layout changes in particular was something that came through quite strongly from quite a few people. You can go tell people to drive 30 k's an hour, but it's not going to make a difference for a lot of people unless there's enforcement, and we know how stretched resources are. The other thing I'd be saying to people, and obviously it requires a time and a place to do it, is maybe they should read some of the stories from people who have been hit or have had close calls.
And look, thank you, the outstanding piece of work.
Thanks, Tim. Got a question from Mel.
This is really, really great that you've put all this information together. A number of these things are possibly already addressed or on the way to being addressed, like with the changes to Hillsville Road and the lights, safer speeds, all of Poonhay will be 30k by the time that's finished. So I can send you the map for that hearing we've had, and there'll be the decision to be made. Stuff like the safe pedestrian crossing roads and Poonhay. So a lot of these things are on the way, which is really good. So it might be, I don't know how we can do it, but somehow sort of collate what's coming and then what else needs to be looked at. But so it's not really a question, but.
Oh, that sounds great. And, you know, great to see stuff's already on the horizon. All I would say there is just to try to give it a priority as much as you can. I know there's budget constraints, just because we all know what the outcomes are if someone's hit, especially, you know, once you're above 30 k's per hour, the rate of loss of life or serious injury is significantly higher.
Roy?
Yeah, no, with some of those people riding their motorcycles and stuff, they've been taken, their motorcycles have been taken from them as well. So it's kind of died down a little. But,
I really think that if she hasn't seen it already, Tony will be fascinated to see this, and I think it'd be really worth, obviously, I mean, tabling the report, passing it on to Tony for advice around these. Like the really clear, specific. You know, you've gotten about 9 things to in part 2 summary. It'd be great for those to kind of be looked at, by the traffic engineering. So, I'll just move that we accept the report. Cool. Forward on staff, yep. Over seconder. Kia. Yeah, Mel. All right. All those in favour? Against, abstentions carried. Cool.
Thank you.
I just realised we don't do full resolutions in public forum, but that's all right.
Human spirit.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to take the opportunity as well just to thank you for your support with Poonhay Community Centre. The work's underway with the renovations. We just can't say how much that means to us in our community to have that work underway. It's become a long way in the last few years from it being on the disposal list to now this happening. So we're really grateful for your support.
We're grateful for the work you've put into that as well. That's been really driven from the HHCA as well. So yeah, appreciate that.
We spoke to the builder last week, and according to their project manager, everything's on time. So we're keeping everything crossed.
That's great news.
I have to work with Jenny if they push out a deadline. Good luck to them all.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. So next up, we've got Miranda Hill from the Coast, speaking about the Coastal Pathway Art Sculpture. So you're from the Canterbury Wind Sports Association.
If you just pass it around, there'll be one less, but I'll give you that at the end because I don't know if I see the screen very well. Yes, so recently there was the AGM of the Coastal Pathways, and we became aware, and I don't know how much the community board is all aware about a proposed sculpture that they're going to go and put up down, they're proposing to put down at the Scott Park. I'm here from the Pacific for Fleet Windsurfing. I'll just go through a wee bit about what our club does, and then we'll also talk about the sculpture as well, because I'm just not sure how much you're aware of it. Yeah. So down at Scott Park, is the best place for you to learn to windsurf, and it's probably the only really safe place in Christchurch, and probably I don't know about Canterbury, but it's ideal for us to learn to teach to windsurf. So we've started a club up there this year. There's 120 members that we have. There's also the CWA, which is the Canterbury Wind Sports Association. They've got 120 members. There's also a lot of other people using that area. There's the yachties, there's also the Sea Scouts, plus a lot of recreational users that use that area. It's quite a small area. But anyway, I'll go back to what we're doing. So we've got, we target the people that are, yeah, that's good to go through to the other one. We're actually targeting people that are lower eco people, and yeah, especially the children. We've got all ages, but mainly the children, and just getting them into a really positive sport. And yeah, in just 1 year, the amount that's grown is just quite amazing. So if we can just leave it there. I mean, I'm not going to read through what our mission is and stuff, but yeah, we've just, if we go back to there, because I've got my questions there too, so that'll help. So yeah, we've, the sculpture that they are planning to put up, well, the proposal from the Coastal Pathways, 8 meters high by 8 meters long, and where it was proposed was to put it right smack bang where we actually rig up our windsurfers. So in the area, there's not a big area in there, and it's not only us that's growing with 120 members, but there's also, I don't know if you've seen them, but there's all those wingers that are doing their thing down there. Now, when they did, I love cycling and all the rest of it, but when they did the cycle path through the tidal way, I think there was a little bit of consultation, but they actually lost a lot of parks in there that, so all the other ones have come over to us too. So on a busy day, there's a lot of people out there. So the car parking, it gets filled up really quickly. So anything that impacts on there that takes away from, you know, the recreational users, a big impact on us. So yeah, like I'm saying, the sculptures that they've proposed is 8 meters long by 1.5 by 8 meters high. So it's quite big. Yeah, it's in an area that's already, there's not a lot of room, and it's where, like I say, it's where we rig up the windsurfers. So we just, they're now aware with the AGM that we're there, but so I'm also in CWA, which is the other one. So I'm not coming representing them, but I am member of both clubs. And at that stage, there was no consultation. But I'm not sure where they are at the planning stage, but it's really important that they actually engage with all of us, because we're, you know, quite concerned about this, because it's not only that size, but originally they had a big moat around it as well, and a big path, a big walkway. So yeah, like it's impacting on our recreational stuff, which like, I mean, yeah, and it's a growth thing too. So like there's more and more people getting into the windsurfing and into the winging as well, of all different ages. So I just want us to be considered. So yeah, so when we had a look back at the, it was 2019, at the draft for that whole area, nothing's happened from there. There was consultation back then, but that's kind of closed off, and I'm not sure where it's at. So yeah, yeah, it's an important area to us, and we can't go anywhere else. We can't go over the other side. I know they've done some stuff over the other side, but it's not where we can launch from. And yeah, that's where the club launches from. That's where most people, the kiters launch from the other area. So yeah, basically we're there. Yeah, like where they've got it, where the toilets are. So the toilets would have to be relocated. Yeah, so they've got those questions there. I'm not quite sure how, where the process will go for them actually consulting with us.
Yep.
But yeah, that's where we're at anyway.
No, thank you very much for coming along to the board. You've definitely done the right thing, come to the board with these requests. I think, yeah, the information that I've seen around the plan for Scott Park it's quite a clearly defined plan, which I'm sure you've seen as well.
Yes.
So my assumption would be that plan stands. That's the only information that I've seen. So for me, I'm keen to find out information from staff if there's been any changes to that. Yeah, Tim.
So you're where they've got the proposal. I'm presuming this is the through you, Mr. Chair. This is the one that has gone out to everybody.
Yeah.
So your club would be the biggest user of this area.
Yes, it would. And right where they have it is right, like there's limited grass area, and we need a grass area to rig up. And
because we've seen that in the earlier photos.
Yeah.
So but you haven't been consulted on it at all.
Well, we hadn't, and when we went to the AGM, because we're aware that this was
AGM of the
coastal pathways. No, I haven't been near the council at all, but it was the coastal pathways, and they had said they had consulted the community and said, hey, you haven't consulted the windsurfing community. And also it didn't seem like the Sea Scouts had. They're now aware, because there was quite a strong opposition from the club, from not just the club, but some others about it, just simply because of where it was. And there's other issues around it as well. So yeah, we're here, we yell loudly at them, right, but it's just, is there room for this? And we've got a limited area, really.
Thank you, that's good, thank you.
Kia?
Obviously you've got some questions.
Yes.
If those, if the design or the question, you've obviously got some quite practical questions, if through the design process, they can be assuaged and we can minimize the impact on other users of the park, would you overall be comfortable with the project going ahead if those concerns can be kind of addressed?
I think the position of it right now is not done. I think there's going to be strong opposition as to where it is, because I mean, from what I gathered from what the designers were telling us, in the wind the thing sways, and when it sways it'll touch the ground, so it's 8 meters high, and when it sways there's an exclusion zone around it as well, so that takes up even bigger area. And so yeah, it's just where it is a problem. And not only that, when the you may not be aware, but the kite surfers, when in certain directions, when they come over, they do emergency landings over there. And if they don't, they're going to get spiked on these things that are 8 meters high. So that's another issue as well, from a health and safety point of view,
those are good points. I'm going to propose that we'll just take those 4 questions you've got and pass them on to staff, along with questions around what consultation has been done and will be done around this, or will be done around this from council, and whether there have been any changes, or there are any changes to that Scott Park, the approved plan for Scott Park. Has anyone got any other thoughts around what the information we need from staff is? Tim?
I think the health and safety one is that it's just been kind of brushed on. We need a better understanding of that, I think, but also the ongoing costs.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. True. Yep. Okay.
I think too, when they did the proposal for Scott Park a few years ago, they sort of saw windsurfing as a bit of a dying thing, and that there weren't that many using it. If you actually have a look out now on a windy day, it's probably more than doubled between our club and between the new sport, which is the winging, that's taking it up. So, and also if we're planning for future, we don't want to limit things by putting things in there that are going to limit these recreational activities, which I think are absolutely brilliant for our kids and brilliant for, there's all ages that are doing this too.
Look, thanks so much for your time, Miranda.
Yep.
We'll call it there, and we'll discuss as a board if there's anything. Did you catch all that, Jane?
Sorry, I put my hand up, but you were not facing
still discuss, I think. Yep. Miranda,
I was just going to
take a seat. That's great. Thank you so much. Yeah. Sarah?
Actually, it was kind of a question, kind of a just a point to make. that while we need to look at this really carefully, I think that new users of Scott Park may not be aware of some of the history with the coastal pathway going in through there. And I think that helping people understand the changes that were already made to allow the wind sports more space there would be really good as well. So originally the coastal pathway was planned right adjacent to the waterway, right to the estuary edge, but it was pushed back to allow more space. And I think that helping understand some of that history as well would be really good.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, we can include that in our request for information. Jane, do you feel like you've captured that? That was quite a lot.
Yeah. So we're going to have staff address the questions that have been posed by the Windsurfing Club and ask what has been and what will be done regarding consultation around the approved plans for Scott Park and understanding health and safety issues, plus a bit on the history.
Cool. And I think the other thing that Tim mentioned was the maintenance and who's, how the maintenance of that would work later. Yep. Cool. Right.
Just, if we also just clarify, I'm unsure of who's the decision maker here and what I don't know the terms of reference for the for the coastal pathway.
Yeah, that's really good.
Have alternative.
That's a great point.
Positions
good
being explored, or because although the park is it's obviously quite well utilised, but there could still be flexibility. But I don't know enough to.
Yes.
Well, I think we just got to.
Yeah.
Maybe look at this again.
Have a bit of have a bit of a briefing on it. Maybe. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thanks, Miranda. So next up, we've got another public forum, but they've not able to arrive until 6. So we're going to move through to deputations. So we've got Hannah and Tim from the Coastal Pathway Group. Was it Tim Lindley?
Yep. Cool. Right.
Where you go.
Okay, thank you. Just to give some context, folks, I'm in my 3rd term as a board member, but way before that, I was chair of the Coastal Pathway Group in its formative years. And we were trying to work out what we wanted the Coastal Pathway to be. And some ideas came through very clearly. One was that we wanted it to be a pathway with many purposes and for everybody. We also wanted it to have a look and a feel that is very specially of this part of Aotearoa, that when someone was on it, they would know where they were. It was a special place and had lots of special things about it. To help with that, the executive at the time had a hikoi with Sir Mark Solomon, who was CEO of Ngāi Tahu at that time, so that we could understand what was important to Ngāi Tahu for the area. What would they like to see the coastal pathway be? And it was very clear that their highest priority was restoration of the landscape, getting plants back, and protecting the estuary, which is why there are so many swales on the pathway. But our first priority, once we did get some funding, was to get the pathway down. And now we've moved on to focus on now making it a very special place. And I'll hand over to Hannah, who's the current chair.
Kia ora, and thank you for having us here. I'm a very keen windsurfer. I sail, so I'm a big user of estuary and Littleton Harbour, and trying to make the world special. So we're trying to work with everyone. We're trying to do the right thing. In the last year, we've organized a whole bunch of community planting sessions. So we've planted a bunch of plants around the pathway. We've installed beautiful picnic sets, furniture like you see up in that corner. We're working with the council on interpretive signage. So we're doing a lot of things to get people to use and enjoy the pathway. We've run events, including the Heritage Walk on the pathway, which was attended by about 60 people during the council's Heritage Festival. We professionally recorded that event so that anybody can listen to experts discuss interesting sites and events along the pathway. And as Tim said, recently we're adding special parts to the pathway. We call those jewels. And specifically, we're supporting sculptures along the pathway. So there's a Poe at the entrance of Monk's Bay, sculpted by Fane Robinson. And in the coming days, Flight by Lou Summers will be installed at the Mount Pleasant Community Center. So these are large pieces that are framed by the pathway, by the estuary, and they're designed to be a special place. And the third sculpture is why we're here today. If you can, yeah, perfect. So Len Lai is probably New Zealand's most famous artist. He was born just over the hill in Littleton about 100 years ago. He was an influential painter, writer, sculptor, a whole lot of things. And his exhibits are all over the world. So the Museum of Modern Art in New York City has it. And here in New Zealand, the water whirler is on the Wellington waterfront, and the wind wand is on the New Plymouth coastal pathway. So he's a sculptor that makes these big, interesting, fascinating sculptures that people from all over the world come to travel to New Plymouth, to Wellington to have a look at. And we've been in talks with the Len Lai Foundation. Yep. For the last several years. It's been very difficult. It's not easy. You can't buy one of these pieces and stick it up on the pathway very quickly. It's something that takes a lot of time, a lot of coordination. We didn't know where we were, but very recently, we were told that the University of Canterbury was working on designing and building one of these pieces. And we had previously identified this piece. We've been working with the executive of the Len Lai Foundation. And he suggested that grass, which is described as a quiet, gentle work reminiscent of breezes fanning the marram grasses along the shorelines of New Zealand, would be ideal for a location in Scott Park. So he was the one that, based on winds, based on being able to see it, based on a lot of factors, suggested a location in Scott Park. So that's what we've had to work with so far. Back in May of 2018, we were in discussion with the windsurfing and the yacht club at the time, and we came up with a location in Scott Park for a sculpture. So that's marked as, I believe, number 15 on that concept plan. So what we've done more recently is this collaboration with the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Canterbury. There's a professor, Shane Gooch. He's built a number of these sculptures in the last sort of 20 years. He has a team of 4 students. They're in their final year, and their final year project is to build this sculpture and to complete that by December. We've only become aware of this in the last couple of months, sort of March. So it's been very, very quick for us. We have been thinking about this for the last 2 years, but things like this go very quickly. They dead stop for a long time. So we're working as much as we can with it. And the arrangement is that the cost for the materials will be shared between the university and the money that we've raised previously to build special features for the coastal pathway. So it's not coming from government, it's coming from money that we've raised ourselves. Next slide. So Scott Park right now is used by a number of groups. You've heard before in the prior one. So there's a number of users there. We had a well-attended AGM, and we've heard that there's very avid users there. We have worked in the past with them. So as Sarah said, the pathway was initially supposed to go along the edge of the estuary like it does in all the other parts. And on feedback, we moved it back so that there is a large area of grass there. And The park itself, there's a road that's relatively fast, and then there are houses behind there. And in the park, there's a lot of parking areas. There's area for sailboats. And then there's lawn area where people get their equipment ready and then use a beach area to go into the water. And on the concept plan, there are indications for a sculpture.
Yep.
Yep. And so what we're, one proposal, and we're not at the done stage, where the reason why we're here is to ask your help to work with other members of the public, other members of the park, to come up with a solution that hopefully will work for everyone. The concept includes this 7 meter by 1.5 meter wide by about 4 meter tall sculpture, surrounded by landscaping so that people can view the sculpture. And it's where the current toilet is. So there's currently a toilet in the park, then there's some grass around it, and there's still grass and shed closer to where the windsurfers typically do their job. We do need to do so we really feel we need a good discussion with the groups to see where boundaries could be and where there could be space. And it's difficult to do that when there's different groups involved and we don't know who to contact. We have been trying to contact people after EGM, so I've talked to the groups, I've sent emails, haven't heard replies to those. So we're trying. It's been relatively short time, but we're really asking you, the community board, to facilitate how we go about finding a good location for it. We are engaging with City Council on maintenance and on geo issues and estuary and lighting and all the other issues. So we know it's a big project and we're happy to take it on. We're happy to take it on for the people of Christchurch. We think it's going to be a major attraction for Christchurch. It's not easy, and we're happy to communicate. And I think the last speaker's question on the bottom was, we want to be engaged, we want to work together on this. That's what we want to do. That's what we have done in the past. And we have a long history, 10 years now, of working with communities to make sure that the pathway is as successful as possible for all involved.
And what you're saying there as well is you're keen to continue to do that into the future too.
That's our history, and that's what we want to do. We're not an evil corporation that wants to have people walking the pathway. We're working together.
No, that makes sense. Have we got any question, Lee? Yeah.
Not to raise too many alarm bells, I'm just checking if you've had any talks with the consenting authority just regarding the structure or.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're working with
predominant question.
Yeah. So we're working with City Council. They have a long checklist of anything. It's in a difficult location in terms of seawater and in terms of estuary with protected birds and with traffic, with lights and with buildings close by. So none of it is easy, but the indication that we've heard so far from someone that has built similar structures and similar ones is that this is a very good location for it. And also from City Council that it looks like we have thought of all the items that you're probably thinking.
I think there's still a statutory, there's obviously a consultation, but there's also a statutory process in terms of consent. So I think that's probably, that December might be a little bit hopeful, and I do hope we can get all of the parties to.
So in terms of timing, the sculpture is being built at the university right now, and that's a sort of separate group. So that's the group of people at the university. They are working on it, they're designing it, they're using wind tunnels and testing and building it. And what we're doing is we're looking for a good location for it and going through the consenting and so on. They don't have to line up. So I don't think that December 1st or whenever that we'll have solved all of our issues. It's also possible that the sculpture might not be done at that point. It's likely that that's going to slip by several months. It'd be nice if we had it and then we could see it and look at it and so on, and then install it at a later date. That's perfectly fine.
I think we all love the vision. It's just making sure we try and get all the stakeholders to get a win here. So yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you.
Kia, did you have a question?
Yeah, so just looking at the Scott Landscape Park, there's an existing landscape plan which was approved, right, by the Linwood Central Heathcote Community Board in a previous period. That has a location for a sculpture marked on it, which is 15 on that plan, which is quite a substantial distance away from where you've landed. I guess I had two questions. One is, obviously that's a change, but two, I mean, was there some conversation about what the prospect of having a sculpture which responded to the protect, because I mean, I'm just thinking practically speaking, this is quite a space hungry sculpture, which is kind of inherently going to be a bit of a challenge to find somewhere that's going to work when you've got a quite constrained site. Was there any thought to what an alternative work that perhaps was set within a space constrained park might look like?
So the sculpture that we had identified in 2018, the goal for that was much smaller than this Linlai one. And we started discussion with a Linlai group in 2019, 2020, so afterwards. And the one that's indicated on the plan is a welcoming pole, so something like that. So we are asking for something different. We're definitely making a change. We'd like to make a change. And that's why we're here. If we were just putting up the pole, then we wouldn't be here because we have a location and a size and yeah.
Okay, cool. So basically at a high level, it sounds like what we need to do as a board is understand what the statutory process is, how we can support the Coastal Pathway Group to actually run a process that involves all of the stakeholders in the area. And yeah, I mean, answer questions like, I've got lots of questions in my mind, which I'm not going to answer right now, but around things like, the status of this, the legal status of this plan and who has the authority to change it and what are the processes with which that can be changed. So I think those are the questions we need to answer as well. So I'm keen to put that to staff. Tim, you had a question?
Just because it seems that there are a number of pieces working. I'd like us to get in front of the project manager just to see what the process is.
Yeah.
There seems to be a couple of gaps here. I think that the concept's outstanding, but if there are gaps there, we can't make a decision on if there are gaps. So I certainly can't.
Yep. Thank you. Cool. All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Cool. So moving on to petitions, we've got no petitions. Correspondence? No, yeah, that's a good idea. Jane, what did you want to summarize what you captured from that?
I would be inclined to thank them for the presentation and discuss it further.
Okay, all right, cool. Right. We'll have further conversation about it when we get to correspondence. But just because of time and because we have to clear out at 5 approximately, do we have Felix Dawson here? Oh, fantastic. Hey, Felix, did you have a presentation? You sent through some information for us.
Well, it's a report.
Yes, yeah.
I assume it pretty much speaks for itself.
Yep.
Cool. Have you got any questions?
Any questions? I'm happy to take it as read. This is the Cashmere Tennis Club request for new court surfacing. Yep. Yep. Tim's happy to move. Yep. Lee's declaring it interest, so he's going to abstain. Stepping back from the table, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Anyone seconding? Roy's going to second. Cool. All those in favour? Against, abstentions, carried. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Cool. Okay. Should we move to correspondence? Cool. So jumping back to correspondence. So we've got just to, we're not going to read them all out, but just to summarise what we've got. We'll go through them one by one. Got correspondence from Ian Kennedy around the Edgar Taylor Walk in Beckenham Park around the state of the maintenance of the vegetation around there. Is that something we're just happy to refer to staff for advice on that? Yep.
In the past, we've had a couple of people talk about Beckenham Park and ponds and that, so it would be good for get some advice back from the guards about the overall maintenance of Beckenham Park.
Okay, so making it about the wider area, including the ponds. Okay.
Yeah, staff have already been advised on this letter, and progress is apparently being made already.
Cool.
I will follow up on that one and get back to you.
Thanks, Joan. Mike Thorley, temporary roading measures. So we've had advice back from staff on that one, Grace.
Some of the issues.
Yeah, just yeah.
And can we not for note, not for the record, but just can we make sure that it's also forwarded on to the teams working on the craft and or on the craft stuff, just in case there's any prospect of them being able to do any of that out of those pots of money?
True. Yep. But generally referring to staff for advice on the issues that he covered off, which weren't covered in the memo we got. So Kevin Hay, some of the community orchard, Huawhenua, so they're asking for our support to sort of support their ongoing lease of that area. There was the idea of basically that we could request parks to see if we can just give them a lease until July next. Was it July next year? Yep. Tim?
Because were they all, from reading it, I thought they were also, because they're setting it up, would it be, are they in connection with the other community gardens that we have? Like we've got the Strickland, we've got the ones in Opawa, we've got a couple that have set up around the river. I don't know, just to cross-pollinate and all that. I don't know, so it'd be...
Not sure.
Okay.
Tim?
Yeah, I was on the Red Zone Transitional Projects Committee when this lease was first approved. And the terms of it were that it was a transitional project and therefore everything had to be above ground. Now the authority for that has shifted across to council, so they can do different things than they were approved of in the first place. Keith Hayes, well known, well respected, and communicates with a lot of people in some and other groups doing their things. He's quite impressive with what he does.
Cool.
So
right.
just some background.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. But generally, we want to refer to staff for advice, which probably will request staff that they actually go ahead with this. A request from Kevin.
Can I suggest that rather than putting a time frame on a year, that actually we request staff progresses a lease to the group in a similar fashion as the one that we've done with the tennis courts in Sumner?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, cool. All right, happy with that. And finally, so Hannah Summers, the letter from the Coastal Pathway Group. So obviously we've covered that off with them just now. So what we're deciding to do with that was just to try and sum up the conversation as I heard it, was we're concerned, we want to understand the process from a statutory point of view. What's the, all of the things that have to be done in terms of consultation and, what decisions come to the board, as well as what we can do to support beyond this sort of statutory minimum, what we can do as a board to support the group to make sure that everyone in the community is included in that decision and feels like they've been consulted and heard. Have I missed anything there?
We need to understand the status of the plan
Yes,
because
yep,
it's
that's
actually
key.
a landscape plan that has been agreed upon, and this is a change to it, so we need to understand what the requirements are and who can actually change it.
Yep.
And I'm kind of at a loss about who's the project manager.
Yeah, like who's actually owning it? Is it the CLG or is it yeah?
Because I think the concern for me is if you've got groups that are main users for that area feel that they haven't been consulted, then that's a real concern.
So it's the Coastal Pathways project, but that doesn't mean that parks aren't part of the conversation. So we'll go back to staff and we'll make sure that we get all of those
Cool.
things, those
Cool.
questions.
That'd be
answered.
fantastic. Excellent. All right. Happy with that. Okay, so that's all. Yeah, that's correspondence. So do we? what was it? Oh, yes, thanks. Do we have a mover? Actually, I'll move that. Do we have a seconder? Tim? All those in favour? Against, abstentions, carried. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. We stop. Yeah, yeah, all right. So next report we've got is St. Peter's Indoor Bowls. Heather, do you want to come talk to that?
Hello.
Howdy, Heather.
Right. Well, all the information is there in front of you. This is a contribution to see if the group can increase the numbers of people playing in and around this space. And it has a recommendation of $500 from the discretionary response fund.
Any questions on that? Tim's moving. Kia's going to second. All those in favour? Against, abstentions, carried. Cool. And you're also here for the Redcliffe Public Library.
So this is an application for the Redcliffe.
It's actually quite hard to say quickly, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's to get a new printer and towards some of the costs of operating the library. It has a large number of volunteer hours going into this, and they're just needing some assistance at this point in time towards the operating costs connected with running it.
I'm really sorry. I always forget about people on Zoom. Tim and or Sarah, did you want to? Oh, Will? And I forget people's names as well. Yeah.
Happy to move it.
Sarah's
Or
moving
second.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim's going to second it. All those in favour? Against?
Okay, so just to bring you up to date, that means you have no more discretionary response fund application money, okay?
Well timed. End of financial year. Thank you, Heather. Cool. Okay, so now we have a briefing from Living Wage. We're going to end a live stream now, and we'll ask members of the public just to vacate temporarily. We're going to reconvene after the briefing. Adjourning. That's okay. I think we need a bit of a break anyway. So yeah, what we'll do is